Today I'm going to talk to you about the include function. The include function is one where you can use it to include a file that is not part of the native file that you're using. So for instance, if you were to say to include a file that's in a different location, it would pull the contents of that file into the current file that's using the include function as if that information was natively part of that file. And for more information, if you want to look it up, you can go to php.net and do a search up in the search bar on the website for include, and it'll pull up the include function. And you'll notice here that on the right side where it says control structures, it's listed down below, and that means that it is part of a control structure. If we haven't gotten to control structures yet in the class because we're jumping a little bit ahead with this, then we're probably still dealing with data types. And a control structure is something that we're going to get to. It deals with like logical expressions, basically things that control the behaviors of the scripting. So anyway, if you want more information, go to php.net and look up include. But in the meantime, we're just going to do a demonstration. So I'm going to go to my dev folder on my localhost computer, and I opened up my basic.php page. I'm going to do a save as, and I'm just going to call this include-test, and I'm going to save that inside of my dev folder, and I'm going to give it a new name or for the title. What I'm going to do is right here where it says echo basic page here, I'm just going to type something like echo hello there, okay? And I'm going to save this, and of course you know what this is going to do. If I go into my localhost and refresh my directory, and I can go to include test, it says hello there, right? It's normal. This information is sitting right here in the file, okay? Well, with an include, what we can do is we could take this PHP block. I'm just going to copy this for right now, and I'm going to make a new file, and we're going to make a new PHP file. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all of this, the doc type and everything. I don't need that, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to paste that PHP block that I had before that says echo hello there. And I'm going to say, beyond that, I'm going to say, this is coming from an include file. Okay. All right, I'm going to save this, and I'm going to save it. I'm not just going to save it in dev. I'm going to actually make a new folder that's called includes, because that's typical. Typically what you're going to find is included assets using the include or require function. By the way, require is similar to include, except that require will not let the rest of the page load if it can't find the file, whereas include will. I'm going to save it inside of this includes folder. You might also see other applications that use things like a folder called assets or resources, but a lot of times they'll also just call them includes. And I'm going to call this support.inc.php. And this is something that you don't have to do. You don't have to say .inc in the center. But again, I'm showing you this because this is a really common way that you're going to see a lot of other people's code is the include files might have a .inc before the .php. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. All right. And it tells me that there is an error on this line, and of course you see here it's because I'm using double quotes inside of double quotes. That we already hopefully know is a problem. So let's just change that for the simplicity's sake to single quotes, and then we don't have any error. I'll save it, and we should be fine. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my include test, and instead of echoing this right here, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use the include function. Okay, and it basically looks like this in its most basic syntax, where you use the word include, and then in parentheses you have, typically you're going to have single quotes here, and you're going to put a string value here, and that string value is going to be the pathway to the file that you're trying to include. So if you were to look at our pathway, let's just go to our dev folder, and you can see that we've got our include test here, and then our includes other file is inside of that includes folder. So what I want to do is I want to call it out by saying includes /, and I think I called it support.inc.php. All right, so I'm going to save that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and just take a peek at it in my include test. And you see now it's pulling the contents from that other file. And what it's doing is it basically is saying, okay, right here, right now, go ahead and load the entire contents of that file. So if, for instance, in my include file, I'm echoing something, it's going to echo it right then and right there. Okay? If I were to, instead of saying echo, the other thing that I could have done is I could have made a variable, and I could have called this hello. And I could say hello equals, and then I've got this string. Well, right now I'm not echoing it, so if I save this and I come back here and I refresh, you see what happens is nothing is showing up. All right? Nothing is showing up because I'm including a file that only has a variable definition. I'm not actually echoing that variable back to the browser. But what's cool is that I can store all of those variables wherever it is that I pull the include in, and then I could come down, later in the page. Let's just put some HTML, and I'll put a paragraph, and I'll say this is not included material. And then down below, I'll come back in with a PHP block. Let's do that. And then here I can just say echo hello, because I know that there is a hello variable that was created in this file. Okay? And so anything that gets loaded up on line 10, whenever I call this include, essentially is loaded for the remainder of the page, all down here. So if the hello variable is inside of this include on line 10, then I can use it down here on line 14. So let's save this, hit refresh. Okay, and then you see that it also embeds the regular HTML that is naturally in that file on line 12, where it's just regular HTML saying this is not included material. And then on lines 13 through 15 is where I echo out that variable, and we see that here where it says hello there. This is coming from an include file. Now watch what happens if I were to take this block, lines 13 through 15, I'll copy that, and let's see what happens if I put it before I include that file. Okay, let's hit refresh again, and you see here now I get an error message. It's saying, hey, there's no defined variable called hello in your include-test.php file, and it's saying on line 11 is where the error is occurring, and in fact line 11 is where I'm trying to use a variable that I have not declared yet. I don't declare it until we load this include file down here. So that's really important to know. And you might also be wondering, well, do I have to put this include file here on lines 10 through 12? No, I could cut this out, and I could actually, if I wanted to, I could load it before the doc type, which is really cool. So you could have tons of variables that get created, you could have lots of different support things that get loaded, and you can put them all up here so that you're ready to use everything down here in the rest of your page, up in the head and in the body. Because there might also be things that you want to do, say like with having an echo variable echo, in the title here that is being generated by whatever script is running in this include file. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this. Let's refresh it again, and now we're okay again. So the only thing that you wouldn't want to do, for instance, is if you have something that actually echoes out in this file, you wouldn't then want to put it like, say, up in the doc type. You would only want to use it exactly where you want the thing to echo. So I'll give you another example. If I come down here and I say echo, echo, this is a test. Okay, and I save that. What it's going to do is it's up before the doc type, it's going to create my hello variable, but it's also going to echo this before my doc type, which I don't really want to do. So if I this looks sort of normal, I guess, on this page, but if I were to go ahead and inspect the element and I look at what's going on here, you see that what's happening is this isn't my true body. This is the body that's being generated because there's a mistake here. Okay, you see that this is actually confused. What it's doing is it's saying, I think this is the head. I don't know what to do. It's not really the head. Let's get rid of the inspector and let's actually say view developer view source. And this is what's actually sitting inside of the HTML document. It's not just the inspector trying to interpret it. This is what's actually in the file. So you see that this is a test that's being echoed before the doc type even gets loaded at all, and before the HTML declaration and the head and so forth. You don't want to do that, okay? What's really important is that you don't echo something in an include file unless you're intending to use that echo exactly where you load the include file. Okay, so I'm going to save that, and let's say that I actually want to load all of the top part of the body, which maybe is going to be the same on every page, with the exception of the title. Okay, the title is something that could be dynamically generated in that include file, but just so you know, you could take all of this out, all the way up to the body or whatever other sections that are going to be identical throughout your entire web page. You could take all of this, could say cut, and I'm going to make a new include file. Let's just do a new one instead of using the support one. Let's say create. Okay, and I'm just going to paste that information here, and I'm going to save this as, let's call it head. So head.inc.php, and I'm saving it in the includes folder. Okay, and I'm not putting the ending body tag, I'm not putting the end HTML tag. This is all I'm going to leave right here. So let's save that. And let's go back into our include test page. And notice that I actually removed the doc type. You never want to include the doc type, HTML, head, all of this stuff, the body. You don't want to include all of that and then load it into a page that already has a doc type, a head, HTML tags. You want to actually just declare all of those things once. So I could take the whole top part of this out, put this up here, and I'm not going to say include support, I'm going to say include head.inc.php. I can also go ahead here and I can include another file. You can include more than one file, and that's actually very common. And I can say includes support.inc.php. And so now my variable down here will still work, okay? So let's go ahead and save that. And I'm going to refresh the page, and it looks normal. And again, if you were to go to look at the developer source, you would see, in fact, that it's loading the page normally. So all of this material on lines 1 through 8 is all being pulled from an include file. Okay, and then line 11 is being pulled from a separate include file. All right, now you can also have a footer include, and that's another very, very common thing. So let's go ahead and let's do that. Everything that would be the same, at least on this very, very minimal simple page, in a footer file would be lines 11 through 12. Well, so I'm going to cut that out too. And I'm going to put an include file here. And then I'm going to put the pathway, so includes / I'll call it foot.inc.php. And I'm going to save that. Now I need to actually take my copied material and make a new file. It's still in my clipboard. And I'm just going to paste that. Okay, and we're going to hit save, and we'll call that foot.inc. Save that inside of our includes folder. And we should be good to go. Now if I go to refresh the page, it still looks good. I can still go, actually I can just refresh my view source, and it's still doing it properly, where it just loads the body and HTML tags on at the very end. Now you might be wondering, why would I want to do that with such a simple page? Well, the thing is, you're gonna have far more complex pages later. So this is just an introduction, and this is the way that we're going to be dealing with components in our Project 1 assignment, as well as pretty much all of the way that WordPress is built.